Hey retro gamers. Today on Smashing Bricks, we're traveling back in time to 2008, and we're traveling back in time to 2008, and we're traveling back in time to 2008, and we're playing Braid for Xbox Live Arcade on the Xbox 360. Hey, welcome back to Smashing Bricks, a retro gaming podcast. This is episode 32. My name is Eddie Inzauto, and today I'm joined once again by gamer and game journalist extraordinaire and all-around good guy, Jason Fanelli. Hey, Jason.
Hi, how we doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. Feeling better. Ready
That's
to
good.
do an episode without coughing all over the place.
Yeah. A non-COVID episode is certainly the way to go. It's a very not risky, avant-garde, let's call it, episode 31 with the guest star of COVID. But you pulled through. You did a good job.
Woo! Yeah, did it. We did it. Okay, so we're playing a game. I don't know if you remember this one, but I believe I never stopped talking about it when it first came out, and you were there to listen to me.
Yeah, there was a lot of
Braid.
Braid talk back in the 08, 09, 2010. This actually came out just before we had met each other because I didn't sign on with Game Nerd. I don't think it's 2009. But yeah, you were singing the good graces of Braid from the beginning. Like, as long as I've known you, you have been talking about this game. So it's an interesting full circle moment that 15 years later, in my case, 16 years as far as the game is concerned, that we're going to sit here and analyze this boy. And it was a fun one to go back into. One I really, I forgot just how much I liked it. And then to go back and just remember certain things, like seeing things and be like, oh yeah, these things really freaked me out, and whoa, this music is still really good. But we'll get into all that. This will be fun. This will be good.
You know what? I agree. There was a lot of stuff that I was like, oh man, I remember that now, that I had completely forgotten. I just kind of filed the game away into a category of I liked this, and then lost the details. You know, maybe that just means I'm old. I did turn 40 since last episode.
Oh no,
so there's that.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. Okay, so what's Braid? Braid is it's a puzzle platformer, right? It's a side-scrolling puzzle platformer. It looks a little bit like Mario at first blush in its construction. You know, just going left to right and jumping on platforms. And then it does a whole lot of other things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we can get into that a little later. But what actually was your relationship with the game at the beginning? Did you play it in 2008 or 2009 or around then?
I think it was you that actually convinced me to jump into it, right? I think it was your constant campaigning for this game. I'm like, all right. I mean, I thought it looked cool, but I hadn't actually jumped into it. So I finally did, basically for no other reason than to shut you up. But it was at first I saw screenshots and heard you talking about it, and I'm thinking it's just, it's a Mario style platformer. And like you said, you got some very striking Van Gogh-esque visuals in his first levels, and it's jumping and avoiding obstacles. But I think the two moments that stick out to me most in the very beginning of this game, or in the beginning moments of this game, based on the replay, was the first time you get hit and you go to die, and then your character just stops dying, and you realize, oh, I can reverse time and then just kind of map out what I'm going to do again. So I'm not going to get lives like a traditional sort of Mario style platformer. I'm going to get redos on the fly. And then as you progress through the game and you start to learn what it's doing, you can then adjust your strategy to that. If you know you're in a moment where you've screwed yourself, you can zip back maybe 30 seconds and try a whole different approach, go up instead of down, that whole thing. So that's the first thing, and then the second thing is right when you turn it on, right? The first thing you see, you're expecting from the screenshots and the marketing, this light and cheery game, and the first thing you see is you in the shadows with the word Braid, and everything's dark, and there's this ominous music, just this low synthy strings, like ominous sounding stuff, and you're like, huh, this is quite a mood we've got here. So, but we can dive a little deeper into all that stuff. I don't want to.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to do it too early.
I forgot that you're all about the music. I mean,
Yes.
I didn't forget, but I didn't connect it with Braid. I was like, oh right, this is going to be totally his thing to come back and talk about the music, because that was a big deal.
Soundtrack's huge.
That first screen is funny though. I remember when I first started playing, I didn't do anything for a little bit. I was just looking at the screen, and maybe you can jump. Maybe I pressed a button and I jumped, and there's like, oh, that's me. It's like, this is more than just a title screen. You can walk from here. But I played it pretty early because I think I'm pretty sure that Jonathan Blow, the designer, had brought it to somewhere. Maybe it was like E3 2007, maybe 2006 or something. And I was introduced to the game, or like the idea of the game, told about the game. I saw an early version of it from Brendan Lindsay, who was the editor-in-chief at GamerNode before me. And I think he had seen it, and he said, oh, it's really good. He's like, he introduced it as like, yeah, it's kind of like Mario, but like, you'll see. So I played it when it came out, knowing that it was, it came highly recommended from someone who I trusted. And when I played it, I was super into it because I think I was a little bit smarter back then. I did really well with it. I played through the whole game probably a couple times, got every puzzle piece, which is the thing that you're collecting in the game to progress, and that's the objective. And this time I was dumber and didn't do as well, but we'll get to that. And I loved it so much, and I even liked all the writing that was in the game prior to the levels, and I read into it a lot. It was like at an interesting time in my life. I had just broken up with a girlfriend in 2007, and it kind of like extended into 2008, and it made me think about things a lot, and I was very introspective. But it was also like this great mechanical platformer with this time reversal and more mechanic. It wasn't just reversal. We had the Sands of Time, Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, in 2003, I believe, which I was a huge fan of already. And then this mechanic came back in, and then he took it like to the 5 degrees further. And like you said, I talked about it all the time. It was like the proto Dark Souls. It was the game that I always brought up in everything, and everyone hated me for it. Yeah. Oh, that's right. It was in, I started talking about it in Versus Node, because we started Versus Node in 2009. There it was. But yeah, now it's back. They released an anniversary edition this year in May, and made it even prettier, and added some 40 levels and developer commentary. And I played that version this time. And I actually played the old version that I still had on my Steam, and the new version after I played a little bit of the old version to kind of get a feel for it. But then I realized that the new version, you can actually switch back and forth between the new. Yeah.
Nice feature.
Anyway.
I like when retro releases do that. They give you the option of playing the new snazzy one or the old original experience. I know Monkey Island did that. A lot of them do that now. I think
Another
it's the way
World,
to go.
which I played on the podcast a while back,
one.
did it really well, especially since Another World ran like absolute crap in the original versions, like on the 16-bit consoles. Oh my god, it was the worst. But that is really cool. and this was really cool. Let's do some of the game history pretty briefly. As we said, it came out in 2008 on XBLA, Xbox Live Arcade, for the Xbox 360, and that was August 6th, 2008. And then the next year, it came to Windows and Mac in April and May 2009. Then PS3 in November 2009. And I think that's, what did they start? PSN, like, it started late. Like, when the PS3 came out, they didn't have PSN yet. And then they saw what Xbox was doing with Xbox Live Arcade. And they're like, oh, yeah, we got to do something like that. Is that how that went?
Yeah, but I don't know if the PSN store was that late, because based on that date, that would be 3 years of between the launch of the PS3 and the PSN came out around then. I do think it was late, yes.
Yeah.
Or at least
maybe not this late.
Like a redesigned version, maybe, like they came out with an original version and then it was redesigned. Oh yeah, so it came out with the console in November of 2006, and then it was redesigned in April of 2008 to be,
there you go,
a little more modern, and that's when things started coming as easier to find and stuff like that. And then Braid made its appearance in November of 2009, as you said. And then I'm going to fill this one in because I just think it's funny that you included it. It was added to Linux in December 2010.
I know,
good job,
isn't
Linux.
that cool?
Way to be here.
Yeah. I think just probably Jonathan Blow is just that much of a nerd that he was like, I want to make a Linux version.
That would make sense.
Native on Linux. He's an interesting guy, as I said.
He is.
So yeah, it was Jonathan Blow. He's kind of a one-man team, I believe. And he had Number None as his development studio. There was an artist named David Hellman. No relation to the mayonnaise, or maybe there was.
Oh.
And then he used licensed music. All the music in that game was not made for the game. It was just musicians who already had music. Those were Jamie Sieber, Shira Kamen, and Cheryl Ann Fulton. And they made some fantastic music.
They did, and I was just about to say, if the choice was to make their own soundtrack or go with the licensing, if they hemmed and hawed at all, if they should ever listen to this, you made the right choice, because the soundtrack is absolutely incredible in every sense, in every stage, and there are some songs that I still listen to this day.
Yeah. You know what? I have not traditionally been get a game soundtrack and put it in my CD player or on my whatever, as time goes on, listening to music in different ways. But
your 8-track tapes.
My Betamax, my 8 tracks. Yeah, but I mean, at this time, MP3s, whatever, get the album. But for this game, I listened to the soundtrack a lot, over and over, because I loved the cello. I loved the ravens and the just those deep, like you said, those atmospheric, sort of moody sounds that they put in these instrumental pieces. Were so good to me, and I listen to them all the time. Yeah, really good.
Yeah, and like I said, they set the mood from the beginning. That first song, I believe it's pronounced Maynam, something like that. From Jamie Sieber.
Yeah.
It's just that low, like, ominous, something's going to go down here, and you don't know what it is yet, but you're going to have a lot of fun. And it's the whole. And I'm glad that they've somebody went and aggregated it all into one album on Spotify called Music from Braid, so I can get it whenever I want, which is nice.
Oh. Nice. I will look that up and probably re-listen to this music now for the next week or so.
Perfect.
That is what's happening in my future. So he had a version of this game done as early as 2005, even though it came out in 2008.
It's wild.
And it had the same number of worlds as the final version, but it didn't have the final artwork. It had kind of a lesser form of the artwork. And I don't know that it was the same puzzles, the same worlds, the same mechanisms. It was just the same size game.
Yeah.
And at that point, he won the Independent Games Festival Game Design Award at the 2006 GDC. And after that, I guess knowing that it was good, that it was going to be worth it, maybe he would have done this anyway, but I'm sure that, if that were me and it's like, oh, I've got something really good here. He put $200,000 of his own money into developing this game.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
With most of it going to the artist for the artwork and for living expenses was what it said. Hiring David Hellman for artwork and for living expenses. Was that for his own living expenses or for David Hellman's living expenses? I don't know. But that's interesting. But I mean, regardless, it's super cool that he was just like, yeah, I'll put $200,000 into making this game. Let's do it. I believe in it.
I dare say, as we'll get into later on in this game history section, that it was worth it. Yeah. I don't know if the anniversary edition this year has been worth it so far, but the initial sales of the game, very good, especially for an XBLA downloadable title such as this. I would dare say he did very good.
Yeah, he was. Braid, I think, was the second highest sold game on Xbox Live. That's what I read.
Second largest selling Xbox Live Arcade title in 2008, and sales were, according to Blow, very profitable. That's a direct quote, very profitable. So yeah, it certainly paid off. He's not, like I said, he's not having the same luck with the anniversary edition. I think at one point he said it sold like 1,000 copies or something like that. I have to find that quote.
Really?
Oh no, he didn't give it. He didn't. Yeah, so did I. He didn't give any specifics, but he said it. It sold like dog S. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Well, that sucks.
Yeah, not great.
So in any case, this one came out. It was, it did really well. Everyone loved it. Super high ratings, which we'll talk about in a second. He said that he made more than $4 million over the first 5 years of it being out, 5 or 6 years. And that's great. And he used the majority of that to make The Witness in 2016, which I got super hyped about and still to this day have not yet played, even though I've had it on Steam.
Yeah, same.
I can't believe
I've not sat down to play it. According to many people who have played it, it's missed with worse puzzles. So
worse puzzles.
Yeah. It's like they're all the same.
Interesting.
But then again, comparing it to Myst is kind of hard. You're comparing a seminal game in all of the industry's history with a puzzle game from 2016. Those two shoes don't fit. That's like comparing the Beatles to a up and coming artist who just released their first single. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
So
Myst's great. Check it
great.
out on Smashing Bricks, whatever episode that was. We played it. Loved it. That's a spoiler for that episode, but go listen to that if you haven't already. So you wanna read through some of this reception, some of these scores we got for this game?
Yes, it received a 9.5 out of 10 from the veritablegamernode.com. I assume the editor was one Edward Inzauto.
No, I don't think that was me, actually. I think that was Brendan. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. He might have been him.
Yeah.
All right, so according to Metacritic, the aggregate score on Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 was the same, and that was a 93 out of 100. PC version slightly less at 90 out of 100. OneUp.com, rest in peace, comrade, A+ for the Xbox 360. Destructoid, 9.7 out of 10. Edge, 9 out of 10. Eurogamer, 10 out of 10. GameSpot, 9.5 out of 10. Giant Bomb, 5 out of 5. IGN, 8.8, coming in lower than the rest of these here. Perfect 10 out of 10 from PlayStation Official Magazine UK, which I also believe, rest in peace, brother. Official Xbox Magazine, 9 out of 10, definite rest in peace. And Team Xbox, 9.1 out of 10, rest in peace, brother. God, that's depressing.
Too many rest in pieces out there. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's yikes.
Depressing.
Yeah, it's not great. But yeah, so highly received at the time, and rightfully so. This is, as I said, Myst was one of the seminal moments in all of the gaming industry in 1992, 1993. This is up there with one of the more important indie releases, and really shedding a light on that independent development system that still to a point is used today. Its appearance in Indie Game the Movie, which it had a big part in that, where it was Jonathan Blow, Phil Fish, I believe Edmund McMullen, who was the Binding of Isaac fella, was also part of that movie as well. So those kinds of games, so Fez, Binding of Isaac, Braid, Bastion from Supergiant, those are sort of like the, I don't want to say, I mean, it is, I did say 4, so I can say Mount Rushmore, but those are like, if you think of the inflection point of independent development and the games that pave the way for indies as they are today, those are a good start, I would say.
Yeah,
and Braid definitely sits atop that, or sits among those most important indie games, in my opinion. But yeah, and then the scores, as you can see or just heard there, kind of tell the same story.
Yeah, super well received. And that whole, it was that whole Xbox Live Arcade kind of generation right there.
Yeah.
That all that indie stuff came in. And a lot of that stuff, it kind of reflected a look at retro stylings in modern games in a lot of those indies. You know, like we said, this one's got that old, almost like 8-bit and 16-bit gameplay structure with modern mechanics added into it. And a lot of those other games that came out, they had sort of that old vibe, those pixel graphics in some of them, like Fez, for example, and a lot of that. So it's right at home here on the show, because even in 2008, it was retro-ish being an indie, because indies felt retro. Because at that time, in 2008, we're getting, like Assassin's Creed was out in
yes, and there's another
7, I think.
7, yes. The 2007, which some people consider to be one of the, if not the best years in video gaming ever, with 2023 being a recent contender. But some of the names, like, I'll give you these are the top 10 best-selling games of that year: Wii Sports, Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, Halo 3, Call of Duty 4, Super Mario Galaxy, also Mass Effect, also Assassin's Creed 1, not 2. That was 2009. And yeah, just an absolute murderer's row of influential games came out that particular year. So this to follow it up the next year. And there was one game in 2007. Some of you might be screaming that I didn't mention. I did do that on purpose. We'll get to it. Trust me, because there's a comparison I'd like to make later on in this discussion. Yeah, an Orange Box came out in 2000.
Oh,
so yeah,
true.
So looking at 2007, the critically acclaimed titles from Metacritic, we have Mario Galaxy, The Orange Box, Call of Duty 4, God of War 2 was that year, Oblivion on PS3 specifically was that year. Yeah. Rock Band, the first Rock Band was 2007. So yeah, we're talking about like a very, very huge Portal. The original Portal was that year. Uncharted, Drake's Fortune. I could go on. What a year! Holy moly! The more I look at this list, the worse it gets. But yeah. So and then for this to follow, this started sort of an indie rush in the same way. And slowly but surely, indie development started to match AAA big budget development in terms of overall quality. And now you have years like this one, where one of the most critically acclaimed games of the year was a real contender for Game of the Year until Astrobot showed up today, or the day that we're recording this, in Balatro, which is a one-man studio where you're basically playing poker with rules you can screw with, and people are eating it up. It's on all its consoles. It's
all
PC.
You hear about.
It's coming to mobile at the end of the month. So it's going to explode even more, I'm sure. It's a heck of a game.
So yeah, Braid started. Braid and these other games really kind of paved the way for indie that has been, the indie development scene that has been going till today. And it won some awards, other than that, the GDC award. It won Best Original Downloadable Console Game, Best Platformer, and Best Licensed Music by OXM. Xbox Live Arcade Game of the Year, Best Soundtrack, Best Ending, and indisputably incredible runners-up to Game of the Year. It was also awarded with Casual Game of the Year, which don't make no sense to me. From the AIAS.
From the actual, like, the Academy of Games. That's fine.
Yeah.
They associate indie with casual. They have since fixed that error, but it makes sense for the time.
I think they didn't quite give it the credit that was due, or maybe they just needed to give it an award, and they're like, let's throw it in this category. People will be okay with it because it's short. It looks the way it does. It's on Xbox Live Arcade. It's not on a disc, but it needs an award because it's that good. Nominated for a bunch of other awards. Macworld included it in the 2009 Game Hall of Fame. IGN named it the 8th best Xbox Live Arcade game in a 2010 listing, and the 25th best PlayStation 3 game, period. PlayStation 3, not PSN, in 2013. And I've seen a bunch of others because we're doing in 14 days our top XBLA games, and I was doing a little research and saw Braid on every single list on the internet for best XBLA games.
Yeah, man. Yep. The more you dig into the history of this game and the things surrounding it, the more you begin to realize just how influential this game was to that whole scene. It cannot be argued.
Right. So, that was what everybody else thought. I think we've tipped our hand about what we think, but we did play this, and we're going to tell you what we think. Did you play the original, the anniversary, a little bit of either? What was your story?
I played Anniversary Edition because it was the easiest one to get to, and I want to thank Valve and Steam for putting it on sale for $5 in the
literally right when we were starting to play.
Yes, that was so clutch. I cannot thank you enough. Not that the game's very long, but to be able to pay $5 for it was nice.
Oh yeah.
Well, I didn't really dive too much into like the extra stuff. I stuck with what I knew. Man, it was just so cool.
Keeping it retro.
Exploring those worlds again, and like remembering, as I said before, things about this game that stick out to you, like those freaking cats, those cat enemies,
the cat bunnies. They meow, but they're rabbits. Yeah,
but they're like screaming at him, like, "Shut up! I'm just trying to get through this stage. Stop it!" And
they're so annoying. They hit me every time.
Yeah,
no matter what.
I hate them. And then, from a story perspective, it always stuck with me back then, and I was reminded of it now this time, how the first level you go into is level 2.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 1 shows up. Like the whole mechanic of reversing time sort of tips your hand that that's probably going to happen. But I found exploring this game again and building the different time mechanics and all that. It's just so cool. It's just such a fun, cool idea. And the fact that it's 16 years old and still hits the way that it does is pretty impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, I played the original on Steam for a little bit, then jumped into the anniversary. It was like, oh yeah, I'm going to buy that one and see how that looks, because it already looks beautiful in the 2008 version of it. So then the 2024 version looks even more beautiful. But what's really interesting is just how smoothly it just plays. The old version just plays perfectly. I found nothing wrong with the way it controlled. I guess it's so simple, right? Like, it's just, left and right, up and down, goes up ladders and things you climb. You can jump, and that's it. You can rewind time. And then he layers in the complexity from there. And you start to have to do this spatial puzzle with all these different things to figure out how to make it work for you, because you have to get the puzzle pieces, right?
Right. And building the puzzle pieces reveals more of the story. And just to build on what you're saying, I like how in each level, it adds a separate new wrinkle to this time mechanic. Like originally it's just, you can reverse time if you get hit. But then you get into the second main area, which is number 3, and then you have items that aren't affected. Right. So if you have you can flip a switch that will stay flipped even if you reverse time.
Right.
So you're doing
they
your
have that
opening
little
paths.
glow to them.
Yes. And then you go forward to number 4, time and place, which is my favorite part of the whole game, where as you're moving horizontally, time passes. That whole level is wild. Where
that
like
is crazy.
Depending on how much you move, and vertical movement or standing still pauses time, but moving forward makes time go forward. Moving right makes time go forward. Moving left makes time reverse. And things manipulating on the screen, enemies specifically, trying to line up enemy kills in that level is absolute bupkis. But it's fascinating to watch in real time.
Yeah, it's so funny. You said that that's your favorite, and I was there sitting thinking, wait, do I love that, or is it my least favorite? I don't know. It's kind of my favorite and least favorite at the same time.
Yeah, it's incredibly frustrating, but it is so sweet when you have that moment of, yeah, I solved it, I did it, I'm moving on, I got the puzzle piece. It's super cool. And then the 5th one adds the shadow. So like you reverse time and you go to do a different path, the shadow will do the same path, and it'll basically manipulate the world just as you did. So you're basically allowing yourself to do multiple things at once. And I don't remember what the color there's a certain color in that section.
It's like purple, pink purple.
Yeah, it's purple, something like that. Magenta maybe, where if both the shadow and you can use it at the same time. So you can use it as like your split point when getting through these paths. So cool.
Yeah,
it's
that's
so
the most
cool.
complicated one to me. Yeah. It was the most difficult to get these puzzles again this time around, because you have to, it's planning ahead, right? You have to run and do something, then rewind, knowing that now in this next try, your shadow's going to run and do that same thing, but you go and do something else to get ready to kind of react to what the shadow's doing. And there are even some puzzles where it's like 3 things. You go and do something, then you rewind. The shadow's going to go and do that. So while he's getting there, you do one thing that'll make it ready for the shadow. Then you go and get somewhere else. And by the time the shadow does the second thing, now you have to do a third thing.
Yeah, it's definitely
rough.
The most challenging in terms of the timing, right?
Yeah.
But it's again, and all of these stages have their own sort of aha moments, right? Where you finally figure out what you're supposed to do, and you just get that immediate shot of dopamine where you're like, yeah, I did it. Let's go to the next one. And it's almost like they're like 4 or 5, because the 6th level Hesitance also has the was it a ring or the and then when you drop it, the area around it is messed up, right?
It's everything near the ring is super slow. The closer you get to the ring, the slower it is.
But like it's 5 different approaches to the same game in one game. It's amazing design. It really is.
And it's almost more than that, because in those later levels, you're still using the mechanics that were introduced, in level 5 and level 4 and level 3, which is so funny to say, because it's actually like 1, 2, 3. The numbering is funky. Then you finish, right? So when you finish World 6, which is actually the 5th level that you play, unless you've gotten all of the puzzle pieces and put them together, that's it, right? You don't get to do anything. And I should say that at the end of each area, you don't actually have to get all the puzzle pieces to go through. You can miss a bunch of them. You can literally just run through all the levels, because each area within the greater level, or each level within the area, starts with a door. You go in like this little cloud space where it has the exposition text. And then you run through, you finish the first level, go out the door there, and now that brings you right into the next level. A lot like Mario 2, actually.
Yeah, very similar to that.
And then you go all the way to the end, and you see a castle with a flag and a little dinosaur that comes out and talks to you and says the princess is in another castle. And you can just do that, go through each world, and not get any of the puzzle pieces, and that's it. But in order to make it to this last little bit, you have to get all those puzzle pieces.
I love that little dinosaur. He's so cute.
And it's so interesting. Like, he's telling this vague, specific yet vague story in the background about a relationship between Tim and his girlfriend, I guess.
The princess?
And another princess. I think it's two different people.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But in any case, the last level, we're going to spoil.
Yeah.
It's amazing, right?
It is.
That last level.
It is a subversion of expectations that few other games have achieved. And it's one that we were primed for, because the year before, in 2007, there was a game that pulled some similar subterfuge in its story that blew minds. I would wager that the 2007 example was a little more mind-blowing and perhaps even a little more influential. But the fact that it then opened our minds to the kind of narrative possibilities. Now, would you kindly think back to 2007? and maybe give me an idea of where I'm going here.
Yeah.
I'm
thinking, so since you kindly asked.
Yeah. That having that in 2007, that sort of mind blow ending, I think benefited Braid, because then when Braid did it, like BioShock 2K, Ken Levine, big time developer, that sort of thing is anticipated or expected with AAA development. For Braid to do it too, in a similar sort of mind F,
and arguably do it just as well or better.
Yes,
in a simpler game.
To get into the spoil here, in level 1, which is actually level 6, everything is reversed now. Right? It's moving normally for Tim, but everything in this world is reversed, and you see your princess running from this big hulking whatever, and you think you're rushing to meet her, right? And then you get to a point where she goes into the house and locks the door, and you're like, but I can't, like, what am I supposed to do now? And then you press reverse time. And when you reverse time, you realize that time was already reversed in this world. And you are the monster that she's running from.
Yeah. On your way to her, you see her opening doors for you, making it so that you can get through past obstacles. She's like helping you get there, right? But then when you're reversing, she's putting walls up for you. She's trying to stop you from chasing her.
She's creating the obstacles that you're getting through. Just an absolute. I remember that moment, just sitting with my mouth open, watching this little dude morph from the hero to the villain with the push of a button. But the push of a button wasn't the realization moment. Once you realize that there are obstacles and not obstacles being placed in your path and not being cleared from your path, that's when the moment you're like, okay, this is special. This is a special.
My whole head exploded.
Yeah.
In that moment.
Just an amazing piece of gaming. and one that it's hard to forget the first time that you. I mean, it's one of those things that you wish you could experience for the first time again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just so you could see just how cool this was. Now, um, Anniversary Edition still has this, so if you wanted to go play the Anniversary Edition on current consoles or Steam or on Netflix, if you have a Netflix subscription, you get access to the free mobile version through your Netflix app.
40 new levels.
Yeah, I'm sure they're fine. I don't know. I wanted to stick with what I knew.
Yeah, I didn't play them. But I think the big thing, the most interesting thing that I haven't yet dabbled in, I haven't yet sampled, is the developer commentary. I read that it's a very detailed and extensive description of the process of building these levels while you're playing through. Yeah.
That would be cool.
Which would be cool because we talked about the mechanics, but a little bit more about that is just, I don't think we emphasized enough how good these puzzles are, because we've played video games for a long time, a lot of us, and we've seen all kinds of puzzles, and you kind of play a game, and it's rare that a game comes along and the puzzles are so good that you're impressed and that you kind of struggle and that it makes you feel smart after feeling dumb when you finally achieve it. It's something like when Portal came out, it was one of those games. When Braid came out, it was one of those games. And now playing it again, I'm definitely dumb again because I've been sitting in front of the screen, not looking up how to do them. I finished most of it. I think I have like 3 or 4 on the end level and like 1 or 2 on the second to last one that I didn't get. But I'm sitting here in front of the screen like, how am I gonna get that? If I move over here, wait, what? How do I do this? It's like that. Like there's a one puzzle where it's ridiculous. You have to get your shadow to jump across a gap with a key in his hand, and you have to be like standing. I mean, this is how I did it. There might be another way where you run across the thing, you grab a key, because I don't think we mentioned that either. A big part of the game is grabbing these keys and getting them over to doors to open up the way forward, usually to get one of the puzzle pieces. But in this one example, you run, you get the key, you jump back across the pit, and you die. So then you rewind it, and you go stand on the other side of the pit and wait for your shadow to pick up this key, and he jumps. He can't jump all the way across the pit, but he jumps just far enough that the key reaches your sprite waiting there, and you pick it up like out of the dying shadow's hand, and now you have the key on the front side of the pit. That's a lot. Like that's like such outside the box thinking for the puzzles in this game. That's just one simple example. I mean, maybe the third stage in the game, you have to kill all 5 of the little weird Oompa Loompa Goomba Sonic the Hedgehog enemies.
I don't know what the heck they are.
And you have to kill them in a particular order, because if you don't, you won't be able to make it from the bottom of this set of platforms to the top, because you have to jump off of one of the platforms onto one on a lower platform so you can get the high bounce to bounce up to the platform on the other side of the gap. And that's like very early on in the game. And then they get crazier and crazier and crazier, using the time stop to stop a cloud that you're on, and then jumping out of the time affected sphere into space with the faith that the next cloud that isn't affected by the time stop is going to reach you because it's moving faster than you are in time. Or like going back and forth because there's the level where some things are affected by time and other things are unaffected by it. So you have to kind of just keep yourself in place going back and forth while this other thing is moving through time unaffected until it gets to the point where you can get to it. And then there are the ones where you have to move the platform. It's just, there's so many unusual puzzles that require you to really flex your brain, and they're hard.
They are
and
hard.
I love it.
Some of them are, some of them are, you're going to be hearing that noise of you falling into a pit or getting hit or whatever a lot. And it's like a thud. It's a poof. And you're going to hate that noise by the end of the game, but it's worth it. It's 1,000% worth it.
But you know what I love? I love the sound of the music rewinding. Like, oh
yeah.
It's so good.
It is. They really thought of everything in this little indie game, didn't they?
And it also has the bonus. Like, there are these hidden stars in a bunch of the different levels that fill in the constellation at the front. They're like extra findoms,
like an extra
scattered
challenge
away. And I forget what the reward is for that. But they're like in weird spots that you wouldn't otherwise get to. Like in one, there's a cloud slowly inching its way back across the level. And I forget how you do it. You like have to come in backwards or something and then I don't know. But you ride this cloud all the way across and over the left side of the screen and go to an extra area.
Yep.
But there's a lot of just weird stuff. I think there's one part even where in the clouds before the levels, where you read these books with the exposition text, you can like go through to another secret area in the cloud area. Was another one maybe? Yeah, it's a lot of secret stuff. Really, I mean, Jonathan Blow has got to have an IQ of like 287. I don't know how. I don't know how you make these puzzles. Like solving them is hard enough.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, and you know, if you go back and watch Indie Game Movie, or maybe I'll go back and listen to this commentary that you mentioned, there is probably some good things to glean from this development, from the things that he learned and the things that he employed. Whether or not he has used that knowledge for good since is debatable. But not just with The Witness, just like in general. But
he's had some controversy outside of the game
but there's
itself.
no denying that this game is a masterpiece. Not to spoil the next section, but
so what are your final thoughts, Jason? On Smashing Bricks, we like to play our old games and then decide whether they're worth revisiting 15 to 20 years later, to 30 years later, to 40 years later, in 2024 and beyond. And if they are, they're a smash. But if not, they're a brick. What would you call Braid, and what are your final thoughts?
It's a smash. It's a smash just to see what Indie Development was doing. Yeah, about it. It's a smash just to see what Indie Development, like I was saying, was doing back then, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, and the things that it was accomplishing, and to get that, to chart it a course from where it was then to where it is now. This would be, if someone said to me, give me 3 indie games from the era to play, this would be one of them without debate. It's from the mood that it sets right from the beginning, through soundtrack, through tone, through the way that it scales up every power of time that you get through the levels to the ending, which I think we talked about most. It is a special game. It just is. There's no whatever you think of the main developer now. There is no denying that whatever he was thinking in 2005, 6, 7, whenever this game was made, was worth it. Both in terms of what it added to the art form, and to the medium, and to his own pocket, because he turned $200,000 of his own money into $4 million. So, success all around. Good move. That's the kind of return on investment you like to see. What's that? 20 times his investment, something like that.
All talent did that.
All talent. That's right.
Woo. I knew that I loved this game in 2008 because I remember saying that if I would have gotten the nod to do this review, it would have been rated a 10 out of 10. Because I remember thinking there are a few games I would have rated a 10 out of 10, and this would have been it. Coincidentally, I rated Assassin's Creed 2 a 10 the next year. But
game.
yeah, this to me, it was at the time, it was just perfect. Because if we go down the line of the components of the game, we have these incredible puzzles, right? This pretty flawless gameplay. It felt perfect. There were no hiccups to the play. It had graphics that were just fantastic. That painterly style. That, like I think you said Van Gogh earlier. It does have that kind of in motion sort of look to it. Very ethereal, but yet colorful, just beautiful. The music we talked about is just so on point. The ideas, the concepts, everything about it just hit and hit and hit and hit and hit. And now I enjoyed it less this time, for sure, because I had nowhere to go. I was like at the ceiling with how much I loved the game. And it's probably just because it's my second time through, and it is definitely a game that benefits a lot from fresh eyes on it. But still, I was certainly reminded of just how good it was. Yeah. So, easy smash. Easy smash. I actually thought, I might come into it and be like, maybe it's not. Maybe, that's a lot of the whole point of the show was to see if the games that I thought were good were actually good, and this one easily held up, no problem.
No problem.
Yeah. So with that, Braid is a smash and was/is worth revisiting in 2024 and beyond. We do have one little bit of commentary from Ms. Muso in the Discord. You can give your opinions in the Discord about every game we play also at discord.smashingbricks.com. But Ms. Muso says, since I knew about the ending of this game before playing it, I was curious to see how it would fare. I love the puzzles, the art, the music, but have to particularly point out the incredible story. It's told through diary entries that make some sense, but take on a whole new level of meaning when you play it back through. Something felt off about Tim as soon as the game started. If I'd never been told how this ends, my jaw would be on the floor. I still thoroughly enjoyed it and recommend it. In fact, I was talking about Braid to a few friends who played it for the first time. Very excited discussions afterward. Awesome. Thanks, Ms. Muso. And thanks everybody for listening. And thanks, Jason, for joining me on the show. Everybody tell your friends about the show. Jason, is there anything you want people to check out? Where are you reviewing games lately?
So, yeah, I have a review going up for MMORPG. That's the Ace Attorney Investigations Edgeworth collection that I mentioned earlier. I missed that embargo. Sorry, Capcom. Didn't break it, though. I didn't break it. That went up recently. And then I also reviewed the Marvel vs. Capcom collection at GameSpot. So you can go to GameSpot and read that review. Big Man Fanelli on any social media you can think of, or I mostly talk about video games, professional wrestling, and this time of year, my beloved Philadelphia Eagles, along with my family and all the things that mean so much to me. So that's where you can hit me up there. That's basically it.
All right, so check out all of Jason's reviews, some of which will foreshadow perhaps his top XBLA games, which we'll be doing in 14 days. Maybe they won't. Who knows? And if you enjoy Smashing Bricks and haven't done so yet, go to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcasting platform and leave us a 5-star rating and review because it helps us out and it's totally free. Gets the show more visible for more people who are going to come along and enjoy it just like you do. And if you want to go above and beyond that and support the show monetarily while getting some fun perks, head over to patreon.smashingbricks.com or patreon.com/smashingbricks and become a patron for as little as $1 a month. As always, I'm going to thank my Tanuki level supporter, Miss Muso. Thanks, Miss Muso. We have a Discord server, which, if you don't know about Discord, is free text, voice, video, chat community. Talk about anything. Games, the games that we've played, the games that we will play, games that you're playing, things that aren't games, and, we could talk about the bonus round topics too. There's people there doing that. Links to everything mentioned you could find at links.smashingbricks.com, plus the YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff. As for next episode, I will be joined once again by GamesIndustry.biz editor-in-chief James Batchelor, not for Banjo-Kazooie, but for Banjo-Tooie for the Nintendo 64. Get your hands on a copy, play along, send in your thoughts, and join us next time on Smashing Bricks. That wraps it up for today. I'm still Eddie Inzauto. That is Jason Fanelli.
It is.
And until next time, may the nostalgia be with you.